these latest attacks in Europe just underscore two things, don't they? One is the ongoing threat of Islamist extremist terrorism, but also just how vigilant Australia needs to be in all of its settings, including immigration, if we're going to combat this problem.
That's absolutely correct, Chris. I mean, we did just have the threat level, the risk of a terrorist attack in Australia moved up a notch to probable 2 weeks ago. Obviously, with a conflict in the Middle East, there's always a risk that domestic opinions are inflamed. And what we've seen in Europe is, I think, a consequence of that. And we're in a period, as Mike Burgess said, as dangerous as it was in the mid-2010s when we had Islamic State, running rampant through the Middle East and seeking to radicalise and recruit fellow religionists, co-religionists in countries in Europe, the United States and Australia too. So we have to be incredibly vigilant at the moment, and we should be taking all the safeguards we can, including being very careful about who we accept into this country.
Well, I was astonished a couple of weeks ago when the head of ASIO said you could rhetorically support Hamas and still come into this country. Now, the Prime Minister stands by that ruling. Peter Dutton's been very clear. He's saying that should not be the case. Any supporters of terrorism in any way, shape or form should not be allowed into the country. Yet the Deputy Prime Minister had this to say on these issues yesterday on Sky News. Have a look at Richard Marles.
ASIO is the principal agency which does the national security checks, which does the security checks in respect of those coming to our country. And they did so in relation to this cohort as well. There is no substantive issue here. What there is an attempt to distract from the fact that the opposition have nothing to say on the issues that really affect Australians.
Except no substantive issue. They're pretending it's just politicking. Surely it's very clear that you and the coalition are saying this. Explain your position for us, Dave Sharma. Surely you're just saying if you support a terrorist group, a listed terrorist group of any kind anywhere in the world, then you shouldn't be welcome in Australia.
That is our position, Chris. If you support a listed terrorist group, whether it's Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, Islamic State, Jemaah Islamiyah or indeed Hamas, you shouldn't be accepted into Australia. And certainly we also, this is the other part of our position, we shouldn't be granting to people who are coming here to settle permanently, we shouldn't be processing them as visitors or tourists and granting them visitor or tourist visas, which is something that Richard Marles was also unable to explain when interviewed on Sunday. Why are we not doing the normal checks and probity requirements and interviews and health checks and security checks when we resettle people from a conflict zone? Why are we not doing those with the Palestinians that are coming from Gaza? And he was unable to give an answer to that.
Yeah, but this is a very important point for the current situation, for people coming from Gaza, sure. But it's even more important than that because it goes to our security settings for anyone coming into this country from any part of the world. And it just astonishes me that we have this ruling. Surely it's within the government's remit to say very clearly, to direct ASIO and ASIS and other security and intelligence organisations that operate in this country, that no, we do not tolerate support of prescribed terrorist groups.
Absolutely. I mean, ASIO doesn't make a decision about who is and is not admitted into this country. ASIO provides advice to the government of the day. The government of the day makes the decision about who will be admitted into this country, and they can make the settings as, they can put settings with as much scrutiny or as little scrutiny as they'd like. What we've seen from this government is they're refusing to take a position on it and they're trying to sheet home all the decision-making powers to ASIO. ASIO is not in control of our borders. They're a security agency that provides security-related advice to the government. The government has to take the decisions here.
Dave Sharma, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Dave Sharma, former ambassador for Australia to Israel.